Tommy Robinson has fled the country. The UK needs a new voting system, the recognition of the Palestinian state, and plenty more here on Your Voice, Your Nation. As always, I'm Sean, John, or Yahya, depends on who you're asking.
I'm Chris.
And welcome back to Blue Collar Workers. As I've quite clearly just said, we have got an absolutely fireball session going on today. A lot has happened in the political week, quite a considerable amount, I might add. And on Chris's side, we've got some multiple interlapping items consisting of Palestine, recognition of the voting system, and a hell of a lot more to boot. So please stay tuned for this full hour. There will be a lot discussed going on in it, and we look forward to your intake and much of your material. As always, we appreciate everyone who comes onto our page, and we deeply appreciate the nearly 700 subscribers. You're near and dear to all of us, and we deeply appreciate the approach that we come. It's been a while. It's been a week, hasn't it, Chris?
Yeah.
I mean,
been interesting.
It has, absolutely.
So one for our lovely viewers, because it's something that I'm currently looking into, because I want to bring it to the attention of you guys. I'd like your opinion on it. The new digital identity card that the UK is bringing in, or as most people refer to it on social media as the Brit card. Brit card, which basically, by the looks of it, is planning on entangling everything that revolves you into one spot, one place. Your thoughts and views on it would be interesting. So I've got my own opinions, which will be coming over either the next one or the one after podcast. So
yeah, I think we need to start discussing on how much invasion of our digital identity that we allow government to do, and how much of a pushback should be granted. Because I find this not immediately troubling, but that it can lead to troubling examples. And I think we should be weary of any kind of overarching behaviour of online policing, especially from 𝐾𝐨𝐧'𝐭, who has proven to be a duplicitous individual at the best of times. That's a big word, Chris.
Yeah, you would do big words. But it'd be interesting to see your thoughts and your reactions to obviously the upcoming digital identity that they're pushing upon us.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, and what you think it entangles as well. That's the more important thing, because I've read several things about it, several aspects that could be involved. I want your opinion on it, so we can then discuss and see what comes about.
Absolutely. I'm going to start with the police seeking Tommy Robinson, because I think that's going to be a bit of a fireball. The far-right activist is thought to have left the United Kingdom after claiming in a video that an injured man had attacked him at St Pancras. Police investigations and alleged assault of a man at London's train station are hunting for the far-right activist Tommy Robinson, who is understood to have taken a flight out of Britain shortly after the video was published put online, showing him near the injured man. The video shows Robinson claiming the man had attacked him and was filmed at London's St Pancras station, where he had been leafleting earlier that day. Robinson, 42, and originally from Luton. British Transport Police said that they were calling for just after 8:40 p.m. on Monday to report of an assault. They said the injured man was in hospital with serious injuries which are not thought to be life-threatening. The force said, following a report of the assault at St Pancras station last night, 28th of July, officers have confirmed that the suspect, a 42-year-old man from Bedfordshire, boarded a flight out of the country in the early hours of the morning. Detectives are continuing to work closely to progress the investigation and bring him into custody for questioning. It is not known where the man flew. In the video, a man can be seen lying face down and motionless, with Robinson pacing nearby. Robinson can be heard saying, "He came at me, bruv." Shortly afterwards, Robinson, whose real name is Stephen Yaxlennon, tells an onlooker, "He came at me. You saw that." The first police statement about the incident said British Transport was called to St Pancras station just after 8:45 yesterday, following reports of an assault. The officers attended and a man was taken to hospital with serious wounds. The overnight investigation has been ongoing and officers have been making arrest inquiries. This is the nature of Tommy Robinson. He is and always has been a criminal. He is a thug. He has robbed British taxpayers who have donated for their various migrant issues. He has focused attacks and hatred towards Muslims. He has refused to pay back monies that he's borrowed. He's declared bankruptcy for £2 million, even after earning nearly £2.5 million as the kind of robber baron of common people. He is a disgusting human being who hasn't done a real day's work in his entire fucking life. I mean, I don't think the man even knows what hard work looks like, Chris. He's a disgusting human being.
It, no.
I mean, if you do any kind of research into Tommy Robinson, you will find him a despicable, low-grading, hanging fruit, troglodyteous human being who has never successfully done anything more than try to divide our country. And he really does appeal to some of the lowest denominations of this island. And it says everything. If he wasn't guilty of something, why did he flee the country?
Because he knows they're just waiting to hang something on him, even if it is true.
But Chris, the man's been in our jail. He is a criminal. He's a contempt of court. He's been arrested for assault and battery. He doesn't protest peacefully. He's part of a group of thuggery. The EDL, the English Defence League, pretty much holds him up as a champion. And can you say that the English Defence League is anything more than a troglodyteous group of knuckle-dragging footballers? And I mean, that's bad for normal footballers.
They're on, as I call, the negative side of that field. Well, negative side, fucking dropped off the fucking map, more like. And I'm really sorry to genuine good footballers, and there are some. There's like millions of British footballers. The problem being is these kind of drunk, angry, couldn't get a fucking decent job and crying about migrants taking decent jobs because they have an education are the kind of people that Britain really doesn't need. I mean, I'm sorry, if your good afternoon is to get drunk and throw various items at Muslims and migrants and attack hotels. Let's take Epping for a reason. There were peaceful protesters in Epping, and I've got no grievances with the peaceful protesters, but there's always nutcases that turn up at migrant protests, and the police do the bare minimum to stop them. There's legitimate protest over how migrants were housed. We said that in our previous podcast, and I've got no problem with legitimate progress. I really don't, because I don't think single men from cultures that have no implication towards Britain should be anywhere near schools, vulnerable women, children, you know what I'm saying? That they should be in the secure centres. And then the migrant families should be then put out to the hotels. We said that literally in our last podcast. The problem being is you then have nationalists who hijack everything that goes on involving migrant issues. And it damages the very moral rightful points of people wanting to lawfully protest. And it's not a couple of bad apples, as that cunt Nigel Farage said. There genuinely always is. Almost every migrant protest has some form of far right attached to it. And that means we need to now start doing something about it. We need to start outlawing these groups. We need to start actually putting these fuckers in prison, so that genuine Britons can go about protesting without harm or lack of liberty or equality to life. They'll then set the example.
Yeah.
Hang on, you can protest just fine, but as soon as you step the line, no, that's it, game over.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Legitimate protest isn't the same, because there are people who have concerns, and I'm not sitting here and saying that the concerns are invalid. I am saying that you have a legal moral right to protest. The problem being is every single migrant protest that happens here in the UK always attracts the far right, and the police do not do enough because the prison systems and justice system is over fucking whelmed. I mean, it's an example of the far right monitoring group, Hope Not Hate, described Robinson as the best known far right extremist in the UK. In recent
that
years,
sentence says it all.
Yeah. In recent years, Robinson has claimed to be a journalist focusing on Muslims and anti-migrant causes. This man has nothing to do with journalism. Most journalists try to hold an integrity, unless you're from the right-wing press. The fact that the BTP, the British Transport Police, are looking for him speaks absolute volumes. And it isn't because he's fleeing because he's some kind of he's innocent for his jobs. Because if he was innocent, Chris, he'd milk this. He'd be in front of cameras, he'd bring his hands out. If he knew he wasn't going to be guilty, as a far-right kind of darling, he'd be in front of cameras, because there'd be money for him.
It'll be milking it up to...
Exactly. Absolutely. And that's what I'm trying to get at. He only fled because he knows that there is a very good chance he'll go back to prison. And that should tell everybody what this absolute nutcase is about. I mean, it does. It infuriates me that this man is allowed to continue. That it does my boggle in that we allow men like this. He should be locked up for 10 years for the racial hatred he continues to spew. He should genuinely be locked up, and so should all of his top lieutenants and all of his top supporters, the whole fucking lot of them. We should start banging them up for 10 years. And that would then allow genuine protesters to go about peacefully about genuine problems we have here in the UK. No one on my podcast, me and Chris, aren't complaining that there isn't a migrant issue. Of course there fucking is. Okay? We live on 8% of our land and we don't do anything about building up from it. Okay? We really do have a problem. And we need to systemically start fighting these problems instead of Parliament constantly putting its head in the sand into these problems. We don't have a migrant problem. As I've regularly said, we have a housing, birth rate, multilateral problem. There is a whole thing to fucking take apart here. It's not just migrants. Because if it was just migrants, believe me, I think the country's government is incompetent, but they're competent enough to do one fucking thing. It's because it's multilateral that this Parliament's like, oh God, I've got to worry about my billiard games.
The one issue is bringing to light all the issues.
Yeah, of course. Migrants is just the tip of the iceberg. There's a whole iceberg of problems underneath it that then leads to the exasperation of migrant problems. And blaming brown people is a very British press kind of thing. Blame anyone who's not white. Oh, it's them. It's not us and the tax fraud that's going on in London worth millions and millions of pounds. Fucking wankers. I can't stand them. Eat the fucking rich is a justifiable position for me. Anyway, what we got on your side, my boy?
You'll update this after, more likely, but yeah. Literally, I think it's a good starting point anyway. That leads into your one. So, Cabinet revolt triggers an emergency meeting by Keir Starmer. Literally, I am going to take this with a very big pinch of salt because of the fact I know half the time he questions the sources. This is from the Daily Express.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Keir Starmer has held an emergency meeting in hours as cabinet revolt threatens new crisis. Keir Starmer will hold an emergency cabinet meeting today amid fears of Labour revolt over the Gaza hunger crisis. The Prime Minister is under pressure to recognise Palestine as a state as fears of mass starvation intensifies. 𝐶𝐿 shares plans in his working on with France and Germany to bring out a lasting peace with US President Donald Trump when they met in Scotland. Downing Street said, and he plans to share details with Arab states and other key allies in the coming days. Sir Keir is facing mounting calls to recognise Palestinian statehood immediately, with this is more likely change to more, but 255 MPs signing a letter backing the move, up from 221 on Friday. This includes 147 Labour MPs, more than half the party's backbenchers. Letter come after the presidential Emmanuel Macron, it's a French president, I can never pronounce his name. Macron announced France intended to recognise Palestine statehood in the coming months. Labour election manifesto included a pledge to recognise the Palestinian state as a contribution to a renewed peace process which resulted in two-state solution with a safe and secure Israel alongside a variable and sovereign Palestinian state. Well, as soon as fact he said it in this fucking manifesto, it's about time he actually done something about it.
Keir Starmer is a Zionist. Let's be very, very clear. Keir Starmer is in the Zionist camp. This wasn't a cabinet revolt. This was British Labour MPs terrified of being deselected by normal Britons like Chris asking, why the fuck are we involved with Israel? The Chris's of the Labour Party are like, what the fuck am I doing in this shit?
Why are we in this shit?
Asking all of their MPs, and these MPs are feeling enormous pressure. Enormous pressure. And that building crescendo, another big word, Chris.
Yeah. I mean, not have as big vocabulary as what you do.
This crescendo that climbed upwards has been ongoing for the last several months, that this famine, this man-made famine has been going on. And there is no defense of it. And even Zionist right-wing papers, I mean, did you see that picture of that mother holding that child?
It did flash across my
fucking
screen.
That's from a right-wing press, Chris. That's from a right-wing press.
That right-wing press actually posted.
They have to, because there's no denying it's a man-made famine now. It's impossible to deny.
They basically just said their asses handed to them, haven't they?
And because of that, they've now got to face the reality of what's coming their way. And the reality is that there will be compliances. Moving on 10, 15 years from now, they're going to be teaching in school the 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐸 genocide. They're going to be teaching it in school. So the press are trying now to cover their tail. And this cascade event, as it's built upwards, has led to literally this morning, Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer announced that Britain will recognise a Palestinian statehood in a major change to the UK foreign policy. He offered to postpone recognition if Israel took substantial steps to end the appalling situation in Gaza, agree to a ceasefire, and commit to a long-term sustainable peace, reviving the prospect of a two-state solution. Israel immediately rejected this. So remember, the current Zion government does not want a two-state solution. Rejects his statement meant that Starmer's speech writers can start working now on what he will say as the UN General Assembly in September. UK recognised of Palestinian looks irreversible, according to some British senior officers. Starmer won't be expecting Britain's change of policy to produce an independent Palestinian state anytime soon. From a perspective of many Israelis, the best time for it would be never. But the intentions, diplomatic sources say, is to empower moderates on both sides of Israel and Palestine. There are no moderates in the Israeli Knesset. The Israelis don't want peace with the Palestinians. They want to eject an indigenous people from their land and steal the land. That is literally Israel's intent. The problem being is you can't say this to Western politicians, because if you say this to Western politicians, they start going absolutely mental. There are no rational people inside the Israeli government at this point, or the Israeli state. The Knesset, their Senate, does not want a Palestinian state. They see the opportunity to eject 2.5 million starving people out of an entire area, and they don't give a shit what the world does because they've got America in their corner. And the problem being is Donald Trump himself has recognised that this is starvation. A'udhu billah. It is as loud as fucking day. Donald Trump has seen that this is starvation and has said that's real starvation. So even he can't ignore this anymore. So this has got to the point that even the pro-Zionist got Israel's back never ending is starting to see the cracks on the wall and how history will be written. And America will be unquestionably guilty of compliance and genocide. Future democratic governments will have to prosecute people of their elders. This is going to have to be a thing. There is going to be an ugly situation where America is going to have to do some soul searching. And there are going to be Americans. And the same here in Britain. I don't believe that any British politicians ever going to The Hague. That's just not going to happen. But will British politicians face British justice? Yes. Because we've been lied to. Those Keir Starmer and his ilk and the Tory government before them were all in bed with Zionists. They've all taken Zionist money. They've all taken Zionist campaign money. And we know they're fucking Zionists. And it's a frightening response that we are watching live right now, the disintegration of Zionist ideology. Because there's nowhere for it to hide. You know, there is nobody in the Knesset who wants a two-state solution. It won't be easy, not just because of the way Hamas killed around 12. You see, this is not even a talking point anymore. No one gives a fuck about the Hamas killing of October the 7th. 1,200 people do not allow you to commit genocide of 50,000. I don't give a fuck. 1,200 people on October the 7th, when it happened, was tragic. Let's be fair about that. Was tragic, yeah?
Yeah.
That was tragic. 2 years later, there are 50,000 dead Palestinians. Palestine has been reduced to rubble, and 2 million are being purposely starved. This is a genocide backed on what was a tragedy. Okay? Nobody gives a fuck about the 1,200 dead Israelis at this point. Nobody in the world. Because the stakes are so further elevated. The evil is plain as fucking day. The 1,200 dead, no one cares. And I think we need to say that now. Because October the 7th, on its own, as it was, and if a humane response had been made, we would have seen something like that. And like if they put ground troops in, killed Hamas and left, No one would. Everyone would have been patting Israel on the back. Fucking Israeli Prime Minister would be looking for a peace fucking Nobel Prize if he'd sent troops in, just killed Hamas and left. But he didn't.
I said the world would have gone, okay, you solved the issue, fantastic. You left them alone after.
And most of the British and European politicians would be patting him on the back. So would America. They didn't. They instead engaged in collective punishment, which is illegal. They started bombing, murdering, and slaughtering tens of thousands of human beings. The UN completely recognises this. The British government tries not to even mention how many dead are in Gaza because they don't want that number made clear. The British government doesn't even want to mention how many people have died in Gaza. So when people start mentioning, when papers start mentioning, because of the way the Hamas has killed around 1,200 people, including hundreds of Israeli civilians, took hostages on the 7th of October, that's them trying to put lipstick on a fucking pig. 50,000 dead Palestinians. That's where we are, okay? October the 7th on its own was horrifying. But we are now in nearly August 2025, and we have 50,000 dead Palestinians, nearly 2 and a bit million starving Palestinians. Israel is a monster, okay? And the world needs to fucking acknowledge that. Israel rejected the call minutes after Keir Starmer finished speaking in Downing Street. Later in the evening, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu posted a fiercely worded denunciation on social media. Starmer rewards Hamas's monstrous terrorism and punishes its victims. A jihadist state on Israel bodies today will threaten Britain tomorrow. This is bollocks. Hamas has never threatened the United Kingdom. Hamas has never threatened Israel or any other country in the world. But the country...
The only time I've heard about them was due to the Israeli attack.
Exactly. Hamas have never, ever, because there are millions of supporters of Hamas, probably here in the United Kingdom, and I'm not just talking about Muslims. There are probably millions of left-wing people who directly support Hamas. I'm not one of them, because Hamas breaks the Holy Quran in harming women and children, which is directly contrary to what Muslim morals are about. I, for Muslim reasons, do not support Hamas. And I know that will be considered a bit controversial in today's society, especially about my Muslim brothers and sisters. And I love them all for the sake of Allah, but they literally break the rules that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us in how we should conduct ourselves in warfare. Kidnapping, harming women and children is entirely forbidden. In Islam, Chris, it's forbidden. It's not a conversational position.
It's just a standard.
Yeah, in both Christian, in Christian, Muslim, even the Jews are not supposed to do this, but they are. Do you know what I'm saying? The Abrahamic religions are very, very clear about how you treat women and children and the innocent. Okay.
I always thought if you go to war, you eliminate the threat, then go.
Yeah, or if you're in old world, yes, you could occupy the country, but you wouldn't hurt the women and children and the workforce. The problem being is Israel has always been an ethno-nationalist state. They don't want any other ethno-nation or any tribal group inside their land. And they want to control it all. Judea, Samaria, they want to control the Golden Heights. They want to control Gaza. They want the cyanide in Egypt. They want the Egyptian cyanide. They want to go all the way up to fucking Mecca and Medina. You understand what I'm saying? The idea of the Greater Israel Project is manifested in today's society right now. And we are physically seeing it. And this is the apparatus that Netanyahu and all of his pipe-dreaming nutcases believe in. Netanyahu denies Israel has caused starvation and catastrophe in Gaza. Had he accepted Britain's conditions for postponement, his government would have disintegrated. He depends on the support of ultra-nationalists. No, Benjamin Netanyahu is an ultra-nationalist. Can we get away from this conversation? He depends on them. He is one. He's in bed with more ultra-nationalists. Can we stop assuming Benjamin Netanyahu isn't the bad guy in this group? He is a fucking monster.
He's part of the group.
Yeah. He depends on the support of ultra-nationalist extremists who want the annexation, occupied territory and force Palestinians out, not granting them independence. Benjamin Netanyahu himself has said he wants this and has talked about Greater Israel. Can we move away, British press and British society, from the idea that Benjamin Netanyahu isn't a fucking carnivorous monster? Benjamin Netanyahu himself is a carnivorous, evil monster. Point. But Netanyahu is not their prisoner. He built a career opposing the two-state solution, the idea that the peace can be built by creating an independent Palestinian alongside Israel. Earlier this month, he said a Palestinian state would be a launchpad for more 7th of October style attacks to destroy Israel. You murder their people in the tens of thousands. You lock them in prisons. You steal their land. You destroy any hope they have. You prevent them from earning a living wage. You prevent moderates from forming. You give them no other choice but to join Hamas. And this is what many of my Muslim brothers and sisters tell me. Now, again, I don't support Hamas because of what they do in breach of the Holy Quran. But, and I say but, Israel gives the Palestinians no other option. If your only option to defend your land and people is to join evil, what would you do? Join evil.
I'll join it to solve the issue.
Yeah, that's the problem. There are no moderate options.
You give me no other route.
Remember, they arrest the moderates. They've shot political leaders who tried to seek a middle ground. They kill them. So Hamas is the only option on the table. Donald Trump told reporters that he flew back to the US after his golfing institution in Scotland that he did not support the British move. Yeah, because his own Senate is going to have a fucking fit. The issue of Palestinian sovereignty could become another factor cracking apart the transatlantic relations. Until the last few weeks, Keir Starmer was not convinced the time was right to recognise Palestine, but pictures of Palestinian children in Gaza starving to death were the last straw after so much killing and devastation. Attitudes have hardened in Downing Street and the Foreign Office, as well as in the Labour Party, and more widely in the UK. The entire UK has fucking been protesting this for a year. Waves after waves after waves of protests have hit. Completely up and down the country. Britain's decision to join France in recognising Palestine is another sign of Israel's increasing diplomatic isolation. Two of its major Western allies, UK and France, and let's be very fair about that, Chris, we were ride or die with Israel less than about a month ago. Both permanent members of the UN Security Council have dismissed Israel's attempts to block their recognition of Palestine when the General Assembly meets in New York in September. This is a telling point of view that Israel's current government and Israel as a nation may collapse because of the behaviour of Benjamin Netanyahu, the carnivorous fucking monster, and all of his ultra-nationalist friends that he's in government with. They all hate each other. They all have their own little cliques. They all have their own settlers that they have allies with. They are all monsters. The whole fucking Israeli government are monsters. And they have their hand, and I'm going to use a bit of emotion, they've got their hand, let's say if Chris is the US Senate, they've got their hand in the US Senate's pocket. And that is how they do what they do. Because without America, if Chris was acting as America, if America stepped off the stage, Israel would collapse. Completely collapse. This is why Israel is not an independent country. It's a monstrous, cancerous organism that is attached to Western hegemony. And whether you like that or not, it is a real brutal and evil statement. And it boils my blood. And yes, it's the reason why I'm wearing the headscarf, quite clearly, as Chris could probably guess. Whenever we have a Palestinian issue, I think everyone kind of realises that comes out. And I think that kind of just makes us who we are. So, moving on. What you got next, Chris?
One party solution to the mass immigration issue.
Oh, my Lord.
This is from the Daily Express.
Ugh.
I know it's from not exactly the most reliable of sources or viewpoints, but they do bring some concerning points. Immigration is without question the most pressing issue facing the United Kingdom today, apart from the Palestinian issue.
No, neither. No, I'll stop you there. Neither. Do you know why? Housing.
The issue that's brought forth to the public is really that
because if we had housing, this wouldn't be so acute.
It lies at the root of almost every challenge confronting our country, from the collapse of public services to the housing crisis. And you said housing crisis, from stagnant wages to the loss of social cohesion and the destruction of our national culture. Yet, for all its significance, not a single political party has authenticated a clear, integrated policy to deal with it. No roadmap, no strategy, just empty slogans and reactive soundbites. That's actually quite an...
To be fair, and I hate to agree with the Express, they're right. And the reason they're right is because no one wants to do the legwork to fix this multilateral problem. Because it's not a simple thing of just stopping the boats. Nigel Farage has no fucking plan in how to integrate these multiple problems, how to deal with the hundreds of thousands of migrants being stored up and down our country in temporary housing. He has no solution. He thinks he can just deport them to fucking France.
Needs to sort everything out. Advance UK is different. We reckon this is the new political group, which is by sounds of it coming up. We recognise mass legal and illegal immigration for what it truly is, not just a policy issue, but a threat to national survival. This is a controversial crisis as much as a cultural one. We are not merely dealing with numbers, we are dealing with the very fabric of our society, who we are as people. Over the last 3 decades, especially in the past 5 years, we've seen mass legal migration reshape our country.
Stop. Why I want to stop you there for briefly is that very statement you just said. Over the last 3 decades, yes, we've had an uptick of migration, but that point that you just mentioned over the last 5 years has been repeated every decade. So is it this last 5 years, or was it the 2010 5,000 years, or was it the 2000? Do you understand what I'm trying to get? This is what the words that are repeated by certain media groups continuously to act in a fear measure. Do we have a migration problem? Yes. Do we need to get a handle of our migration problem? Yes. Solving our migration problem, is it doable without all of the other linchpins in society? No. That is a fundamental problem where the Express goes wrong. Carry on.
Over the last 3 decades, not especially over the last 5 years, we've seen mass legal migration reshape our country. Meanwhile, illegal migration undermines our very sovereignty altogether. We no longer control who enters or stays in our country, and with a nation lost control of its borders, it ceases to exist.
We didn't have borders 150, 200 years ago. Borders didn't exist. So the idea of the idea of borders is a nationalistic kind of dog whistle. Okay, Britain has been a migrating nation for 2,000 years. I'm sorry. We need to dispel this illusion that Britain is a ancient tribal land. It's not. Okay, Chris is Anglo-Saxon. I'm descended from the Irish. Okay, my ancestors have a closer claim theoretically than Chris's people do. I still consider Chris and his people to be absolutely Britons and have been for centuries. Okay, the problem being is we have been a migrating centre, this island, for thousands of years. The Romans came here, the Vikings came here from the Scandinavians, Norwegians, Danes. The French have been here. Do you understand what I'm saying? There has been mass waves of migration. Germans appeared. This is not something new, Britain. Can we stop acting like you're some ancient Finnish tribe that has ruled in that part of Finland since the dawn fucking of time? You're not the Finnish. You're not the Egyptians. Okay? You have been a migrant nation. Yes, the Anglo-Saxons have had a dominant control of the island for the last 300 to 500 years, but you have not been the only tribe on this island. You haven't. The Scots, the Picts are gone, the Irish, the Welsh, even the ancient Britain, the Brittanies, which existed in Cornwall, are their own group of an ethno-minorable group. Much of this dog whistles to your skin colour. And that I have a problem with.
In Advance UK, we're in government, our approach would be decisive and unapologetic. Our first act would be to suspend the granting of indefinite leave to remain and Britain citizenship.
The problem.
Let me finish the entire thing, then we can discuss. Yeah, so they get a full grasp of the picture. We must stop the damage before we can begin to repair it. This pause would buy the time desperately needed to regain control, access to the scale of the problem, and implement permanent solutions. We would also repeal the Human Rights Act and withdraw from the European. Now, this is where I have issues. European Convention on Human Rights, as well as the UN Refugee Convention. This international agreement has tied our hands and undermined our sovereignty. See, I say they bring up valuable points, but I didn't say all points.
Let's be very, very clear. If they withdraw from the Refugee Pact and they withdraw from the Human Rights Act, they can start ejecting millions of people. This is what they're telling you. This startup ultra right wing, and let's call them what they are. This party is ultra right wing. They want to reduce your legal rights, which the Human Rights Act protects, and they want to withdraw from which means anybody who has mixed race kids, anybody who has a black father or even a black grandfather, let's be fucking blunt about that, they could throw them out. Because there are millions of Britons who have been here decades and decades and decades who are legitimate refugees from Syria, from Iraq, from Cameroon, from Nigeria. Not Nigeria, the countries around Nigeria. My apologies to the Nigerians. They're a pretty stable country. They've got problems, but they're pretty stable as Africans go. Places like that, Nicaragua, I think I was thinking of. You know what I'm saying? Really, really bad fucking African countries. There are communities of them here in the UK. They would allow them to deport those people. Genuine, peaceful, integrated refugees and refugee communities.
So we can no longer allow foreign courts or supranational bodies to dictate who we can and cannot deport. This is United Kingdom. We decide who stays and who goes. On illegal migration, the solution is as simple as it is necessary. We must stop the boats before they reach our shores. A dedicated force should patrol the boundary of our territory waters and intercept dinghies before they cross. If we fail to enforce our borders, the flood will continue. Every illegal migrant who reaches our shores is rewarded with accommodation and benefits. This sends a clear message to the next one. Come on and you will be looked after. That message must end. If migrants manage to enter our country illegally, they must be detained in secure facilities until they are deported. There should be no path to regulations, no loopholes, no judicial advertisement standing in the way.
Listen to that word, very, very clear here. This party, this startup party, is that from the Express? I just want to mention, is absolutely fucking evil. And the reason I say that they're evil is because they want to deny refugees cannot apply unless they are stood on British soil. So let's take an example. Do you remember the Yazidi who were attacked by ISIS years ago when ISIS was a thing? Yeah, they have a genuine refugee right to be here. They have an enormous community here in the UK. I think it's like 20, 30,000 people. They were being exterminated, Chris, in Iraq. We took them in. We the Brits said, yeah, come, we'll look after you. And we did. They would lose status. These are the type of fucking evil people you need to be careful of. Whoever started this party has no interest in anybody who doesn't look like me and Chris.
I was going to say, they raise some valid concerns, but their approach to it is far too extreme. It would cause more issues than anything else. I would say, obviously, if you want to control who comes in and out, as we've stated in previous podcasts, pull up a diplomatic embassy on the borders of France, Spain, whatever.
Yes, the things that we used to have.
Yeah, so that they can then apply for the refugee.
So refugees can lawfully
British
apply,
soil, but without actually being on the UK land, the main.
You see, that's the fundamental thing that many of these right-wing nutcases refuse to mention is genuine, real refugees, and that's why they want to withdraw from the refugee rights. Yeah. That's ground fucking breaking. That they want to not only just withdraw from the 𝐟𝐸⁵ which has issues because it has overreaching power. I'm not saying that the Human Rights Act is perfect. It's not.
Oh, nothing's ever perfect.
But it does overall benefit the British people. It protects your legal rights, your working right in incentivizations, etc., etc. But withdrawing from the refugee treaty in the UN is unfucking heard of. That party, what are they called?
Advanced UK.
Madness. Fucking madness. That's the Advanced UK they're more right-wing than Nigel Farage. They're more right-wing than Nigel Farage. Jesus Christ, I would have to defend that man. I despise Farage. You cannot justifiably withdraw from the Refugee Act and not destroy every multicultural refugee community here in the UK. Because that's what it will do. Because they're also talking about withdrawing from citizenships, automatic citizenships, for those that are born here. So every mixed-race child's father or mother leaves the country, is what these nutcases are suggesting. Over my dead body.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not going to lie. it gets a bit more too far right wing. That literally, I can understand some of the. I literally get some of the main
Patrol the borders.
Yeah.
I get that.
They bring some valid main points which need to be addressed, like controlling obviously the UK waters on obviously the things coming across and everything else. Not just obviously to stop too many illegal migrants coming in, but also
to safeguard the people that are on those boats so they don't fucking die.
Obviously, to make sure that the people that want to claim refugee status do it the correct way without risking their lives. Yeah. I'm not going to lie, friggin', I know for a fact that channel could be an absolute evil.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. I mean, we've seen people die in their thousands across it, but the right-wing press don't give a shit. They just do not give a shit how many people drown in the channel.
As we said, a very simple solution. An embassy in each of the places where they are trying to cross.
For refugees would be absolutely justifiable.
For refugees or anyone that wants to try and
if you're
I do agree is we do give them far too many benefits.
You see, now I've got an objection that they can't move. They can't leave those. Do you know when they say hotels? That's buzzword. They're not hotels, Chris. We've said this before. We've done the investigation with Perez. They're not hotels. They're locked down, called hotels for language. They're permanent residential positions that have mistreated them.
I think we need to change the word it's been benefits for the refugees as to aid for the refugee.
Aid for the refugee, because it's not benefit.
Because of the fact if we rechange that word from benefits to aid, it'll then, as a call, what they're trying to think of is if we name it as benefits, it'll attract more.
Yeah.
So
it's not.
One simple solution to that is to change it from benefit to aid refugee. Yeah.
We aid the refugees as we process them.
And if the people that are coming over that are thinking, oh, we go over there, we get the benefits, it's just, oh, we only get aid. Oh, hang on, what aid is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not only just a change in language, but a change in attitude.
Yeah.
And I'm absolutely a supporter of, if you failed to be an asylum seeker here in the UK, they should be deported.
Yeah. Hence the reason why.
But they need to be processed.
That's why there should be an embassy in the places they are coming from. So if they want to come here, they go into that embassy, apply. If they're denied, they could try somewhere else. To be quite honest, I think that's rather fair. And I'm sorry, but if I was in charge of those foreign embassies, if you got 1 ounce of a criminal record,
you're not going anywhere. No. Again, I don't want criminals in my country.
I don't care how petty of a crime it is. No.
Yeah, theft for food, we could probably slide that. If you're stealing to stay off hunger, Chris,
if it's the once, maybe, but if it's multiple, no.
Yeah, me and you disagree on that. But for stealing for food is not the same. We're not talking mobile phones. We're not talking that. I agree with that being an automatic no. Yeah. But if you're stealing for food to feed your family because you can't have any other way of feeding them whilst you're applying for refugee status, you can kind of waiver that one, I think. The humanist. The humanist. If the man comes in and says to you, I have stolen. If first thing he walks into you at the interview and says, I have stolen, but it was bread. It was food to feed my family. If he's put that on the table, I don't think you don't.
I would then look into it and see the severity of it. But if it's a case of he's coming in, I stole bread, bread from my family, it was only this once, and then turn around and find he's got a 10-foot rap sheet, it would be immediate denial.
Yeah, of course. So a man that is stealing to feed his family and admits it to the immigration office is doing due diligence. He's telling you why he's done it.
He's only done it due to
the need of feeding his family.
It's a last resort. Yeah. That's all person would only do it as a last resort. Yeah. Which we could then turn around and I'll then say, okay, I'll let you in on a
temporary, probationary
thing. But the moment you caught stealing, you're out.
Yeah, absolutely. That's justifiable. Yeah. But then you're giving the refugee hope, because hope is necessary. Without hope, you fuck the entire country of the world, mate. Hope is absolutely necessary for everyone. So, I mean, if a refugee turns up and says, look, sir, I have stolen, I do want to apply to your country, but I stole bread, cheese, poor man's food to feed my family. That is justifiable.
I'll then still do my due diligence and look at correspondent, checking that everything tallies up to what he's saying. But if it doesn't, then it's a straight no.
No, of course, absolutely. But I think that level, if you prove that level of honesty, the migrants, you give a pathway. There is currently no legitimate pathway to come to the UK. There's no legal pathway.
Apart from actually stepping on our soil.
Physically stepping on the soil and then applying for asylum. And the Tories closed all of our asylum sorting centres in both France, Spain and Greece. They did that. 14 years of mismanagement. We would not have the level of migration problems we have if there were ways to...
When we had our embassies in France, Spain and Greece...
No, we have embassies, but you mean the migrant centres?
The migrant centres, yeah. The place where they could turn around and
apply.
apply.
Our cross-bordering was far, far less.
I was going to say, we had control of it then.
Yeah. It was far less. We had problems with the boats. They were nowhere near as severe.
I was going to say, naturally, people are always going to be stupid and try the boats, but it was nowhere at the level that it is today.
No. And I think that's an important factor. And these agreements do not exist anymore because the Tories didn't want them. They did anything they could to feed the right-wing narrative. And now we've got people like this, the absolute UK, the fucking nutcases.
I was going to say, they raise some concerning points which do need addressing, yeah, but the way they're trying to address it, I do not agree with.
No, absolutely not.
Because of the fact, for them to turn around and strip rights of certain things,
all our rights, our citizenship, they can discuss,
which will then turn around and leave us open to the table.
Yeah, no, fuck no.
Because they could then turn around and say, for example, I'm Anglo-Saxon, but I've got some reason, some bit of French or African, whatever bloodline within me. They could turn around and say, no, you're right.
You're born native. That would be very difficult. For them to sell that to Anglo-Saxon. Me, I'm Belfastian. They'd want to pack me on a boat and fuck me off so they don't have to deal with Ireland. To be fair, that's not a bad thing. I wouldn't have a problem going home. Get my European passport back.
How have I got a European passport and you aren't?
Yours is still on your European passport. Mine ran out.
What's that? Not much longer left.
No, I know. Like I said, how long is your European passport going to last? Another couple of years, tops?
2028.
Yeah, well, like I said, a couple of years, mate. For up to 40,000 homes to be built on disused railway land. The UK government has pledged to build up to 40,000 new homes on disused railway land, including former goods yards, industrial sites and station buildings over the next 10 years. The £1 billion development plan will start with previously identified projects in Manchester, Newcastle, Nottingham and Cambridge. The government said it was part of its brownfield first approach and would create vibrant new communities. However, an interim target of 15,000 in the first 5 years is a small fraction of the total 1.5 million new homes the government has promised by the end of this parliament, plans that are already facing big hurdles. The government aims to attract 350 million in private sector investments to help develop vacant industrial sites across the country to create shops, green spaces, hotels, as well as flats and houses. It is part of a big promise to tackle housing shortage across the country. However, those plans face a huge range of obstacles, including strains on local infrastructure, such as water, sewage, schools, healthcare, and a lack of capacity in the construction industry to build new homes. This is a fundamental problem why I believe the migrant crisis that we have should be turned into a resource. Bear with me here. I'm an Irishman. I always seem to look for problems to solve. Take the male adult population of the migrants, offer them a 10-year citizenship plan, send them with skilled labourers, builders, contractors to build the houses, and build. Build, motherfucker, build. That solves your labour problem. The matters involving sewage, nationalise the water companies, fucking fire all the directors, pay the shareholders nothing. And I mean nothing. Not a fucking penny. They've been dumping that shit into our country.
They say it would cost billions to nationalise.
No, you don't pay them. You declare eminent domain. You don't pay them. They were previously public held resources. You legally seized them, stating very clearly you failed to uphold your legal obligations. Therefore, you're devoid of your right of investment. Problem solved. You say, fuck it, you're not getting any money. And I don't care if you don't invest in the UK.
Not as if in paying them, as if it would take billions to reinstall, to bring it back up to code.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It will do. But the generated wealth of all of those companies combined would allow it to be done piecemeal. So if you were to nationalise all the 5-6 water companies in the country, pool their money and resources, and then do the worst ones at each time. So, Chris, you were to take over, yeah? You're the Chancellor of Britain. Bang, we've taken the water companies, slapped it all together. That pot of money doesn't get touched because we don't own that. That's owned by the British people in the pot. You say, right, you deal with the Great Western waterway problems. Then you deal with the North. Then you say, you take the pot of the 5 companies and you isolate and smash every problem.
That would work.
Exactly. Biggest problem is moving outwards.
Yeah.
Because you're using the wealth of 5 companies.
Do we actually have the legal power to do that?
Yeah. Eminent domain.
How much issues would that cause?
It's eminent domain is very rarely used in the UK.
Yeah, but what's the fallout of using eminent domain?
The likelihood is the people who owns those companies would never invest in the UK again. But as far as I'm concerned, their investment isn't worth shit.
I was going to say,
considering what they've
done, I won't want their investment either.
Do you know what I'm saying? I won't lose sleep. These aren't people who have private industries. This is not the same as I built my company, you're stealing my company. No, Britain gave these corporations these assets and they've squandered them.
Hang on, they gave them so the
No. Yeah, absolutely. They bought them off the British people during Margaret Thatcher's age. They were previously, that's British Thames Water, that's British Waters, British Gas, British Rail. Those were those old industries. Sold off piecemeal during the Thatcher years and the early Blair years.
Sure, take them back off.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Oh, we're not going to invest in you. There's America over there, there's France, there's Germany, there's all that law. But hang on, you're not getting a recommendation from us.
No, of course not. Because they've squandered how they've used it. You should nationalise the waterworks without question. You've solved the waterworks problem, yeah? When they talk about this collateral issues. School healthcare, again, use the migrants to build these facilities. Give them a 10-year plan. I've told you. This is how you humanely solve these problems.
Because you're giving them citizenship. You're not
at the end of their 10 years.
Yeah. Well, you're giving them a temporary British citizenship.
No, it's residency. We call that residency.
Yeah. Whilst they complete what we need done.
And at the end of their construction period, they then have their citizenship.
As long as they haven't broken some rules.
Yeah, exactly. If they haven't broken the law or something like that. So you've got a workforce that's earned what they want. You've gained the construction of all of these homes and schools and infrastructure.
It's a win-win.
It's a win-win. These problems can be solved in a humane, lawful and legal way. And they can resolve many of the problems we have.
It's the way the people that are coming over and get offered this deal be like, hang on, so we're helping you build homes, but then we'll get a chance to have one of those.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely.
At the end of it, would that be very paying them getting this?
To be fair, I would definitely, for the incentivization, I would definitely give them a discount at the end of a 10-year building project.
Say, yeah, I would do that. So I said, you still have to buy it, but you'll get a discount.
Yeah, of course.
Because you've helped build for what we need.
But
hell, as a British person, I would enter that program just to get the discount.
You know what I'm saying? The likelihood is many of the problems that we have involving our infrastructure can be resolved in a humane way. All you need to do is cut the bureaucracy and start murdering greedy vampire capitalism. That needs to be said. We need to be unapologetic in our desire to end the disgusting behaviour that has gone on involving the sewage water companies and the electric companies. The eye gouging, remember all the power companies, they were part of British Electric.
I don't know why we privatised them for anyway.
Do you know what I'm saying? This is why I say we have a legit, unlike the French and many other, well, the French already nationalised all of their stuff. Unlike many other countries, we built our infrastructure and then sold it off. We should unquestionably seize it all back, with no compensation given to the investors because of their failure to upkeep what they did. They have failed their regulation rules. That's why they've cancelled Ofcom the water regulator. They dissolved it because it fucking couldn't do its job. It can't do its job because all of these companies keep fucking telling politicians, no, don't do that. Here's some money. Those water companies need to all be nationalised. There are fucking lots of them. What you got on your side, my soldier?
Where is it? Migrants potentially getting flats without consulting local council or residents. Locals fuming after Labour's plan to move migrants into 250k flats.
I wouldn't necessarily. That from the Express again.
GB News.
Jesus Christ, Chris! Do you just scrape the barrel with where you'll get your research from?
No, this is one of the last ones just to make it 6 points. Locals of some town within the derelict high street have complained about being exploited by the government over plans to erect a new migrant. Oh, fuck, stop calling it a hotel.
They're not hotels.
Above empty shops. After recent unrest at other migrant sites, residents from Waterloo in Hampshire said new arrivals could bring chaos to what is already a dead community hub. Last week saw riots, police deployed in Epping and Canary Wharf after protests broke out. According to the Daily Mail, the Home Office plans to relocate 45 asylum seekers into a new development where flats can... Now, so see this. This is a point which I'm a tiny bit annoyed with. New flats.
There's no proof.
Yeah.
GBN News almost never gives evidence. They say rumours or insiders. They never give proof.
If it's actually new flats, that's where I'll have the issue. I would have no issue with this kid.
If they're building migration holding centres because they're not fucking hotels, the migrants don't get to choose where they live.
Yeah.
They don't get to complain about the services.
Because obviously it says it's obviously a town that hasn't got bollocks for it. It's on the decline and just needs a bit of oomph, some refinancing into it. Having the migrants there within already sustained housing, which is currently empty, which is not in use, I can understand that. But if they're sticking it into new builds without giving the local residents or anyone else the chance to buy these new builds, because that is another way to get more people in, that's what I have the issue with. But obviously it is from GB News, so I take everything with a tiny bit pinch of salt.
It's a fucking huge. They would chuck you a bucket. It's GBN fucking News, Chris.
Yeah. It is part of an incentive to reduce the numbers of asylum seekers in hotels and disperse migrants across UK towns and cities. The issue, though, is that the plan was done without any consultation with the local council and to anger the locals. That's the other point which I have, if it is true. If they've done that without talking to the council, that's pushing the boat.
No. Because if a migration centre needs to be built in the area to alleviate pressure across the rest parts of the country, it needs to be built.
But if it's building a centre for them to stay, a centre is different to new builds which are being built to try and bring people into the town. Yeah, there's a distinct difference. If it's a centre to house them, to keep them, whatnot, I can guarantee you the locals will be like, okay, they have their own centre, that's fine. But because of the fact that it's potentially new flats which are being built to bring in new people, that's where the issue lies.
The reason I got of this is GBN News cannot be trusted. They have no source material, and they regularly fucking open lie.
That's it. This is the distinction, yeah. If it is the flats, that's where the issue lies, just because of the fact you need to make sure that the local people have the chance to buy it before you turn around and stick anyone there. Because if it's the last like 1 or 2 flats that ain't selling for whatever reason, then fair enough. But if it's the entire lot, no. But if you're building a place for them to actually house the migrants before they get for them to process, that's completely different. You're looking them up now, aren't you?
Their show has been fined multiple times for lying on television.
That doesn't surprise me. With
lying, barefaced lying. They've been fined, and they're struggling financially. They've made tax losses of. They've made pre-tax losses of 33 million. They are not a well-watched paper, Chris. This is just. Yeah, I have considerable problems with GBN News, genuinely, because
not GBN, just GB News.
GB News, they never tell the truth. They're always lying bastards. A fucking lot of them.
Yeah, you want to take it, but this is something the government needs to watch out for.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, because of the fact, obviously, if they are trying to find places for obviously the asylum seekers to stay,
yeah,
I think it's imperative that you communicate with your local council about, obviously, can you take these on without causing too many issues? Have you got somewhere sustainable which isn't going to
these councils, the council says empty shops, Chris. They're strapped. They need government funding. And let me be fair, if I was the government, I said, look, you take my money, I'll help you rebuild your town centre, but you're going to have to take some migrants to alleviate pressure around the rest of the country.
Yeah, then that's where I'll try and go. If it's a town,
because that's what GBN News is not saying.
If it's a town that is slowly dying, then that says to me there's going to be empty housing, empty flats, especially above the shops. That's where I'll turn around and go, well, if you come here, as soon as we've granted you citizenship, you then turn around and set up a business below and you've got your house above it.
Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if GB News has dog shitted that. I wouldn't wipe a Rottweiler's arse with their newspaper. I really wouldn't. Because 9 times out of 10 they're lying. Or they're obfuscating. Or they're attacking. Or they're trying to smear. It is remember, Nigel Farage made a career on that page. It does indeed. The UK needs a new voting system. First, readers react to Corbyn's new left-wing party.
I've got that one.
I know. Our community says Corbyn's new party highlights growing frustration with Labour, but warns it risks splitting the left and strengthening the right unless the UK voting system is reformed. Public reaction to Jeremy Corbyn's new left-wing party has been mixed, with many independent readers more concerned about the UK's electoral system than the party itself. While some welcome the alternation to what they see as a Tory-light Labour government, most agree that the first-past-the-post system, which has been flawed for years, makes it almost impossible for smaller parties to succeed and risks splitting the left vote. Until the electoral system is changed to proportionate representation, PR, the dog breakfast that is British politics will continue.
Is that from the Independent one, Jazz?
Yes.
I've got to say, Mark.
I know. Others fear that the move could hand power to Tory reform coalitions, with one reader saying, if you think Johnson and Truss were bad, wait until you see Farage and Jenkins manage to destroy. Although Corbyn remains popular among young voters, many readers question the strategic behind launching a new party now. This is a disaster waiting to happen, one said. The left is already fragmented and needs unity, not further splitting. Some say saw the move as a protest rather than a serious political project, whilst others argue it could force Labour to shift left or adopt PR. Here's what you had to say. No real left in the UK. I certainly don't like the Conservatives. I dislike Reform UK even more. The problem with the current Labour government is that they are Tory light. I cannot see Corbyn ever being PM. Stemmer is sadly too authoritarian, hence the jailing of peaceful protesters. Personally speaking, I would like to see a combination of Liberal Democrats and Greens in power. See, we're the sensible people. We've always been the sensible people. But there is almost zero chance of that happening. Don't count our chickens until you've seen them. The Lib Dems are much more to the left than Labour. Until the system changes, expect a mess. It is excellent to have more choice for the electorate to choose from. Unfortunately, because of the first-past-the-post electoral system, this only waters down the anti-Tory reform vote, because those right-wing parties and their supporters will stick together. Don't forget the Liberal Democrats, who commanded a fair old share of the electorate, but not enough for a majority. That could result in a permanent right-wing government. Until the electoral system is changed to proportionate representation, the dog breakfast that is British politics will continue with either one or other, or as I said, because of the watering down of the central and left-wing vote, a permanent Tory reform bunch in power. There won't be a permanent Tory reform. They are too incompetent. Britain, even in the hypothetical situation that Britain was to vote a Tory reform government in power, it wouldn't last a single government. Because the British people would see Nigel Farage is a megalomaniac. He would aid and abet his own interests and would destroy the right. It would implode. A Tory reform alliance would implode. They wouldn't necessarily, the voters might stick together, but the people at the top are ravingly incompetent. Ravingly fucking incompetent. Well, since you had the same article, what's your opinion on it?
It does need to change the voting system, but
yeah,
because obviously at the moment, the current one you can vote for. There is options, obviously, which to be quite honest, for the first time in a while, there actually is.
But those options, you have to get first. You have to be the first past the post.
Yeah, we seem to be first past the post.
Right. So basically, there is a vote share. Yeah.
I thought it was just a case of majority wins.
No, it doesn't.
Didn't it used to be that way?
Nope.
No.
Past, post, UK.
But then I've always, with my time frame of actually voting, it's always been a case of one's always like took the majority vote. Because it's only ever been between Labour and Tory.
So, how does the first past the post voting system work? This is important. We'll go into this. On election day, voters receive a ballot paper with a list of candidates, and only one MP will represent the area. Each party has only one candidate to choose from. Voters put a cross next to their favourite candidate, but if they think their favourite has a lower chance of winning, they may put a cross next to the one they like with a better chance of winning. As there is only one candidate for each party, voters who support that party don't like their candidate have to either vote for the party they don't support or a candidate they do. How does first past the post vote count? During a general election, 650 constituencies across the country each hold separate contests to become an MP. A candidate needs the largest number of votes in that constituency. That means every MP has a different level of local support. In many areas, the majority of people will not have voted for the MP. Even if millions of voters support the same party, if they are thinly spread out across the UK, they may only get the largest number of voters in a couple of the contesters, so only win a few MPs. Tens of thousands of voters supporting a different party, but who live near each other, could end up with more MPs. That means the members of MPs at a party has in Parliament rarely matches their popularity with the public. So you have the person with the most votes.
So each area votes,
and the person,
for the party they like, and then whoever wins that then comes the MP for that area.
Yes,
and then literally, then whoever has the most MPs
then becomes the government.
Then comes the government.
Yes. So that's the first past the post system, and the system is utterly flawed. We should be in a proportionate representation. Like, me and you should be allowed to vote for the Liberal Democrats, and that should vote towards an overall pool of Liberal Democrats that then leads to Liberal Democrat MPs being elected. And this would allow Reform to have more voters. But it would mean that the right would absolutely collapse, because the Tories and the Reform would only get proportionate to what they are valid to. Do you understand what I'm saying? They would never have a majority government again, because they would lack the first past the post system, which only benefits large parties. It only benefits Labour and the Tories. So as horrible as it is to say that, we have ranged between 11 and 12% as the Liberal Democrats for decades. We have always been the third chunk of the electorate. And until we get a charismatic leader who stands up and wins the country's vote and can steamroll through the minds of multiple members of the government. And for that, you need televised press, you need social media platform, you need to be online almost universally. And that, if we had a charismatic leader, we could probably win our country.
Let me tapping my shoulder on that.
I'm not being subtle. Just not being subtle. But the reality is the first past the post system is heavily flawed. I don't know how long we've had it. I think it is at least over a century old.
So it's been a while.
Yeah, I mean, the Labour since the Labour and the Conservatives have had an up-down rule of our country indefinitely for the better part of 150 years. And even though Reform will eat into their flank, it won't eat into the flank of Labour the way that Jeremy Corbyn's party will. Which means, yes, hypothetically, we might have a Tory Reform party in 2028, but I doubt it. Because Nigel Farage is a megalomaniac and will not work with other people.
Uh-huh.
That's the fundamental. Just look at him. Look how he behaves. Look how his party behaves. Look how his party has had multiple sackings. Look how many parties he's had. That man is a walking train wreck. If the Tories marry themselves to it, they are signing their own death warrant for a single parliament. Yes, they might win the next election, but they won't win an election after that, because the British public will see them for their rampant incompetence.
They'll be out sooner than the fucking term, I reckon, if they go on it. But then that also then leads into
go on, then.
Lowering the voting age could deepen class divide in schools due to the lack of political literacy among teenagers.
I don't necessarily agree with that, because I've met a lot of conservative teenagers. That's bollocks. That's the right-wing press. Where does that come from?
Independent.
Ooh. Oh, I apologise, Christopher. I apologise. A well thought out piece for a change. Let me check your temperature.
The decision to lower the voting age to 16 could widen the equality divide among teenagers in the UK due to the lack of political education in school. To be quite honest,
I do agree with that.
That's correct.
But I have met a lot of right-wing conservatives, teenagers.
Due to being taught at school or due to their own
family.
There you go.
Yeah, family teaching. Yeah. Politics is not taught often at school, and it now needs to be, now that we're lowering the voting age.
Academics have warned that the move to extend the vote to 16 and 17-year-olds risks only benefiting those from wealthier backgrounds unless all students are given equal access to citizenship education. Recent research from the University of Rockhampton found specific classes on politics and democracy have been provided unevenly across the county, with more affiliate schools likely to receive dedicated lessons. It is also found that public pupils with university-educated parents are more likely to discuss politics at home and feel more confident engaging in political debates. This results in teenagers from low-income households often being at a disadvantage in terms of understanding parties and voting systems, which the research concluded compounded class-based disparities.
Yes and no. Yes, we don't have an education system that is broadly based around democracy and voting systems. Because if we did, many of the youth would ask, why do we have first past the post?
Votes at 16 is an important milestone, but without proper political education in every school, which we risk widening the democratic gap between privileged and disadvantaged teenagers, said Dr. Brian Hopkins, Professor of Political Comparative School Science at the University of Rotterdam. The students are most likely to benefit are those already surrounded by political knowledge and encouragement, leaving disadvantaged young people behind again. The result is a political system that feels unrepresentative and irrelevant to many young people. If we ignore this, votes at 16 could eventually entrench inequality.
I absolutely see now that back part. I agree. We need better political education inside schools, without a shadow of a doubt.
This is one of the things why I was questioning lowering to 16. Will the people at 16 understand what is going on within the political party, the political establishment?
Yes, if we have the education, system in place.
Because of the fact, obviously, I learned about politics not from school, but from the kids I used to hang around with, which understood it because their parents were involved in it.
We used to have political debates all the time at work, me and you.
Yeah, that's because of the fact I grew an understanding from it, from school, from the kids I used to hang around with that had the influence from it.
Yeah, absolutely. These are conversations that have to be had. We have to build an educational system that allows our democratic systems to be taught. And they are a democratic value. They are a value that is quite often disregarded.
Especially if we're going to push through and make it so that you can vote at 16.
Absolutely.
They need to understand, even in this case of the last 2 years of secondary school, it's brought in as a mandatory lesson.
Absolutely.
Because of the fact, obviously, when you then leave school, you're 16, so you're able to vote. That way, everything is then fresh in your mind and you understand it a bit better.
Absolutely. I work, taxes, the things that school completely ignores. The work experience is really bad in school environment. It's 2 weeks. It's airbrushed. It's bollocks. And tax systems.
Dip your toe in, even though it's not really dipping your toe in. It's skating on the ice.
It's a joke. I genuinely find the work experience system is heavily flawed in the school system. They should talk about taxes. They should talk about work experience. They should talk about employment history. They should talk about employment rights. They should absolutely talk about democracy as well. Inside that entire 2 years, Chris just perfectly said, that should be something we should wrap around.
I would push apprenticeships in school.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we need more plumbers. We need more carpenters. We need more electricians.
Yeah,
sparkies. Completely. I completely agree. Apprenticeships should start recruiting from school size.
Because it is spoke about in schools, but it's only spoke about. It's not pushed.
And
I'm like, no, you need to push it. If you know someone's going to like starting thing, push them towards it. I can guarantee you there's going to be more people in it than you think.
I genuinely think that we should tradespeople should get benefits to promote at school. I think there should be some kind of deal that government can do.
I know for a fact local electricians, plumbers, and all that lot, if they know the fact that they can go to a local school in their area and turn around and pick up 2, 3
possible apprentices.
Apprentices.
Yeah, absolutely.
They would be there like a shot. And it wouldn't just be one company, it'd be multiple.
Yeah. And if there was if there was an incorporated benefit from government involving that, some kind of mileage or fuel tax or something like that, I'm absolutely certain that they would pick up on that, because it would benefit them to acquire these apprentices and thereby gain more physical capacity on the system. I think that leaves us in an excellent position to call the end of this podcast. As always, if you've got to the end, thank you very much. I deeply appreciate it. I'm John, Sean, or 𝐬𝐻𝐾, depends on who you're asking.
I'm Chris. I hope that what we said at the start, I would love to hear your views on the British ID card, or the Brit card as it's all called. But I hope you all have a smashing day.
As always, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And regardless, for those of you who get it here, free Palestine.